We'll now have a moment of silent prayer and meditation. May we be seated? Honorable members, Minister, Deputy Ministers, members of Parliament, good afternoon. Are you all ready for the debate? Yes. Oh, good. I'd like to recognize the senior officials and heads of entities of the Department of Agriculture. I'd like to also welcome the guests of the Minister who are here for the debate. A very important sector of our economy, the farmers and the agribusiness people, and our experts who look after the animals and plant food, and I can see some students aspiring to be in the sector. You are all welcome. You are now the guests of and the fisher men and women. You are now the guests of Parliament, no more the guests of the Minister. And I would like to advise you with some house rules that apply in this house as you are guests. There may be exciting statements that are made by members of Parliament. Don't be tempted to clap the hands. You can just smile. I'm fortunate I'll be the only one who see you. If there's something that's very irritating, you can only make funny faces, but you can't use your hands as gestures or boo anybody in the house. You will just participate by being present, and I'm sure you'll be very good members of the public. With those words, you are most welcome. I'll now ask the Secretary to read the order.
Debate on vote number 24, Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries Appropriation Bill.
Honorable the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, members of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, MECs of Agriculture, members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all and I'm honored to be afforded this opportunity to present the budget vote. Honorable Chairperson, I would like to honor the legacy of an illustrious son of the soil, the late great ANC President, Oliver Reginald Tambo. I quote, "We have a vision of South Africa in which black and white shall live and work together as equals on conditions of peace and prosperity," close quote. Comrade Oliver Tambo understood the struggle for racial and economic equality was not against people, but against the systems of inequality and oppression. In the same spirit, we continue to strive for economic systems that are just, providing for security and comfort of all South Africans. We have achieved much, but have more to work to do, and would therefore request a moment of silence, if you agree, Chairperson, for those who lost their lives, farmers and farm workers alike, that will not live to see the vision of O.R. Tambo.
May we stand and observe a moment of silence? May we be seated.
To address the transformation imperative, the department continues to work with local business and labor to rebuild confidence, promote investment, and improve prospects for more inclusive growth. The agriculture, forest, and fisheries sectors need broad-based economic transformation that create jobs and business opportunities, reduces inequality, and boosts income growth. Chairperson, the outlook of the agricultural sector in South Africa is positive, despite the concerning outlook for the overall economy. The country's estimate for GDP growth has been revised down marginally from 1.2% to 1.1%, but remains unchanged at 1.6% for 2018. Following the country's downgrade by credit rating agencies, economic growth expectations in the short term will remain under pressure, affecting demand, but supply-side factors such as increased maize availability as a result of the good rainfall in the summer rainfall areas will improve the economic outlook. Last year, I pronounced on compulsory community service for vets. The first cohort of 129 vets has completed their community service. The department is now in its second academic year of the implementation of this program, and 125 vets have been placed for this year to deliver much-needed veterinary services to our communities. The program is unique in the field of veterinary services, and various countries have shown an interest in emulating this program. For the fishing rights allocation process for 2015-2016, the department has now started processing appeals for hake inshore trawl, horse mackerel, KwaZulu-Natal piscine, large pelagic longline, netfish, Patagonian toothfish, seaweed, and for the fish processing facilities. In terms of Section 80 of the Marine Living Resources Act, applicants are allowed to lodge appeals against the decision of the delegated authority. The process is still underway, and I would like to appeal to all interested and affected parties to allow the process to unfold. And if any party is aggrieved by any decision taken by the department, I encourage such a party to follow the appeal process that are provided for by law. It is my intention to finalize the allocation for the West Coast Rock Lobster and Upper Lawn sections by 31st July this year. The establishment of the Fisheries Transformation Council, in accordance with the Marine Living Resources Act number 18 of 1998, Chapter 3, Section 5/29, will be prioritized, for the industry has to transform. We have also committed to finalize all the appeals that have been submitted with regard to the above-mentioned 9 sectors by 30 September 2017. With regard to the small-scale rights allocation process, the department will soon announce the provisional list of successful fishers for KwaZulu-Natal communities. The appeals for all allocations will be concluded by December this year. I have recently, by Monday, met with several representatives for fishing communities, some of whom are gathered here today, to discuss the concerns and issues raised with regard to rights allocation in various species. We have agreed to include the affected communities in our engagements going forward to ensure that we find an amicable solution to all concerned. As fishing is not a business, but a livelihood for our people. Honorable members, South Africa is a contracting party member to 3 tuna regional fisheries management organizations: the Commission for the Conservation of Southern Blue Tuna, the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, and the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. Through my department, in 2016, South Africa successfully negotiated for an increased southern bluefin and Atlantic albacore allocations. In the current year, the focus will be on the allocation of swordfish. As I speak, my team of experts and negotiators are currently attending the 21st session of the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission meeting to defend the proposal developed in partnership with the Republic of Maldives. The proposal recommends the way forward on how fishing rights should be allocated in the Indian Ocean, taking into account the objectives and interests of the developing Indian coastal states. Chairperson, in his 2015 State of the Nations address, President Jacob Zuma pronounced on the 9-point plan to boost economic growth and create much-needed jobs. The revitalization of the cultural and agricultural value chain, known as RAVAC, is among the 9-point plan through which economic growth and job creation will be driven. For the 2017-2018, we seek to continue the strategic approach of RAVAC in partnership with relevant national departments, the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, Department of Trade and Industry, including sector organizations, labor organizations, and civil society. Key focus areas of RAVAC will include land reform, market access, trade, producer support, research and innovation, and production. The outcomes of, and we have gone through a process of Operation Phakisa in agriculture, and the theme was transforming the agricultural sector towards an inclusive rural economy and captures critical elements of the NPDP and the 9-point plan. It has been 2 years since the launch of the Operation Phakisa, Operation Phakisa Oceans economy, and substantial developments have been made to grow the agriculture sector. To date, 450 direct jobs have been created and 2,000 additional tons of fish have been produced. This is a 35% increase for the sector. A contribution of R500 million has been made to the country's GDP. Aquaculture is one of the fastest growing food production sectors in the world. The sector presents a good opportunity to diversify fish production to satisfy local demand, food security, export opportunities, create jobs, and contribute towards the GDP. In order for the abalone subsector to access the European market, the EU visited our country on a fact-finding mission. The findings are being attended by DAF together with the relevant partners. Under the Agricultural Development Fund initiative, feasibility studies were conducted on marine fish, finfish, oysters, and mussels. 40 funding institutions have been identified and 26 of them pledged support towards agricultural development. Coordinated industry-wide marketing efforts have resulted in South Africa receiving various requests from various countries such as Iran, Taiwan, and China for aquaculture production exports for the 2016-2017 financial year. This year will focus on local awareness and marketing efforts for fish products to increase the current consumption. Honorable members, the Department strategy on agro-processing identifies barriers to entry and active participation in the mainstream agro-processing economy. We will continue working with sector partners to ensure better value addition to our commodities. Management of disaster risk in the sector remains critical following the devastating drought that threatened food security through decreased crop yields and livestock mortalities. It's important that the department puts disaster risk mitigation measures in place to avert those disaster risks and ensure that they are better dealt with when they occur. South Africa, like many developing countries, is highly vulnerable to the impact of climate change. The increased frequency of natural disasters and hazards in a rapidly changing climate is a serious global concern to many people, especially the poor and rural communities, who depend on agriculture as a livelihood. During this financial year, the department will develop a climate-smart agriculture strategic framework which will contribute to the regulation, promotion, coordination, and implementation of an effective CSA program. Furthermore, in this financial year, we will finalize the climate change adaptation and mitigation plan. The drought conditions in 2015 and 2016 had a devastating impact on agricultural production throughout the country. These drought conditions, dare I say, appear to linger in the Western Cape as we gather today. My department will cooperate and lend support to the Western Cape as it deals with the drought. In the summer planting season, South Africa has received much higher levels of rainfall recorded for 2016-2017 season compared to the previous years. Indeed, our dams are looking much better thanks to our country's water management system. I'm pleased to announce that to date, for the 4 major forestry lease agreements have accumulated an amount of 627 million rands, which will be committed to community development. We will continue to address temporary unplanted areas and state-owned plantations. And in this financial year, we'll propose an alternative model, a management model. The department has participated with other key 5 departments to develop a draft National Food and Nutrition Security Plan. Those efforts to develop a comprehensive and integrated plan will be supported by Food and Agriculture Organization and other United Nations agencies and academic institutions. We collaborated with the Red Meat Abattoir Association in 2016 and 2017, and 2,116 abattoir workers benefited from attending the slaughter technique training to comply with Meat Safety Act. Through collaboration with the National Skills Fund, 632 smallholder producers received training in various skills programs, and 971 received mentorship. For 2017-2018, training is planned for 21,723 producers. 3,015 producers will receive mentorship through CAPS funding. To further expand on our capacity building program, my department, through the bilateral relations with the between South African government of Japan, in partnership with the Japanese National Cooperation Agency, is implementing the Smallholder Horticulture Empowerment Program, which promotes the principle of grow to sell, as opposed to growing without a forecast market. The program involves training of South African beneficiaries in institutions in Japan and Kenya, and implementation is done at a provincial level. We started with the beneficiaries from KZN, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga, and we intend to spread the program across the country. Market access. The increase in trade and travel has led to an increase in the spread of pests and diseases. That has been shown by the outbreak of recent diseases like the all-farming disease. And we believe that as a country, if we don't close our borders and make sure that there's control, some of the commodities reaching our shores may be having eggs for such pests, and we need, therefore, to coordinate our work and ensure that our expertise are shared with the region. The most recent difficult negotiations to crack the Chinese market for exportation of our beef. My counterpart from China and I signed the protocol for exportation of beef to the country in February 2017. Our vets are setting up the necessary systems for exportation of the protocol in order to provide the guarantees the Chinese authorities require. Furthermore, honorable members, we are pleased to announce that following intense negotiations, United States of America has reverted to 22-day cold treatment for false codling moth in citrus from South Africa, and has added the port of Houston in Texas to the list of ports of entry where consignments of citrus fruit from South Africa may arrive in the US. This new set of market requirements and extension of ports of entry is indeed good news for South African citrus industry. The conditions of exportation of mango and persimmon fruit from South Africa to India have also been concluded, and engagement continued at various levels towards finalizing the market access requirements. The European Union has sent an inspection mission to South Africa in February this year to inspect our establishment and the veterinary authority for compliance to the EU legislation related to chemical residues and control of veterinary medicinal products and food safety for game, ostrich, and crocodile meats. Chairperson, accessing markets is particularly difficult given the many issues to be considered. The department is devising innovative ways of involving more private sector participation in market access initiatives. In June 2016, the European Union signed an economic partnership agreement with the Southern African Development Community group comprising Botswana, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and Swaziland. The agreement includes, among others, a bilateral protocol between the EU and South Africa on the protection of geographical indications on trade, on wines and spirits. During 2016 and 17 financial year, 1.6 billion was made available as a coastal grant to implement CASP, and 491 million was made available for Ilima Litsema. Honourable members, in his speech of the nation address in 2017, the President Jacob Zuma announced the support for black commercial farmers, and the department will make sure that that reality is reached. During this drought period, our department, with the professional departments of agriculture, ARC, and the private sector, distributed drought-tolerant maize seed among smallholder farmers and provided technical support, advice on drought feeding strategies for livestock, as well as alternative feeding methods. On pests and diseases, Chairperson, I've raised the fact that as a developing country, we are really invaded by a number of pests, and I can just quote a few. The fall armyworm, Tuta absoluta, banana bunches top virus, and many others. At a regional level, South African Development Community member states have agreed to subject the control of transboundary diseases to joint early warning and rapid response programs. The outbreak of the fall armyworm and African swine fever has taught us valuable lessons that we can advance to the world. Chairperson, the investment at underscored biological product is bearing fruit. We have signed international agreements, especially around the the lumpy skin disease vaccination. And we believe that with more funding, we can be able to do more. In conclusion, Chairperson and honorable members, I would like to thank Deputy Minister General Bigicele for his counsel and our respective families for their support. For the Committee of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries for their consistent guidance. I would like also to extend a word of appreciation to our Agricultural College students, representatives from our research entities and various growers associations gathered here today. Lastly, I would like to say, agriculture should not be politicized. People rely on food production. We need to protect farmers and farm workers, including workers who are working in the ocean through fisheries. But I would like to say that if we are to succeed in doing that, let's embrace transformation. No sector in South Africa should still be lily-white controlled like fisheries. When an issue is raised, the people go to courts. We need to embrace transformation and do it willingly. We need to ensure that black people are not fit to be employed to fish for others. They themselves can fish when they're given rights and facilities. They can be able to create jobs. There's no preclude for others. As the departments therefore were saying, we call on the opposition parties to work together with the department. We call on everybody to put the hands on the deck to create a better South Africa that all can be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The Chairperson, Honorable Siminya.
Thanks, Chairperson. Good afternoon to Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Fishery and Forestry, and other Deputy Ministers present here, our guests, honorable members of this august House. Honorable Chair, this time last year, our country was gripped by a drought that had devastated the agricultural sector and the small farmers in particular. Most part of our country have since received good rains that in some regions were accompanied by floods. As our country is marking Workers' Month, we must never lose sight of the human face of environmental catastrophes such as droughts and floods caused increasingly by the climate change. The brunt of the diminished economic output is borne overwhelmingly by the working people and the poor. Many of the people have lost jobs and can hardly afford nutritious food in the dominant global capitalist market. The rampant capitalism is also responsible for destruction of the entire ecosystem globally. The specter of the job losses in our country's poultry industry threatened the livelihood of the thousands of workers and their families. This is a worrying trend considering that the NDP identifies 600,000 potential jobs in communal areas and 3,000 jobs through commercial agriculture by 2030. The ANC government is committed to work with the organized working class and business to find the lasting solution to these challenges. The ANC had pledged that our government during this term will implement a rural development policy focusing on meeting the basic needs, land reform and rural enterprise development, supported by localized markets, credit facilities and economic infrastructure. Food security requires strategic and integrated intervention to address access to and control over the fiscal, social, and economic means to ensure sufficient, safe, and nutritious food at all times and meet the dietary requirements for a healthy life. The ANC believes that agriculture has a potential to contribute up to 12% of the GDP. At the moment, agriculture accounts for 2% of the GDP. In trying to find possible solutions, it should be noted that South Africa has not yet reached the target set by the 2003 Maputo Declaration of allocating 10% of the national budget to agriculture annually. The reduction in the number of commercial farmers and farming units is a concern and requires extensive research into the cause of the phenomenon as it threatened the country's food security. In the same breath, we are concerned with and condemn the continuing farm matters of both farms workers and farm owners. The lack of economic opportunity in rural areas have increased rural to urban migration, thus increasing urban unemployment, poverty, and food insecurity, which used to be confined to rural areas. Our country needs more investment in infrastructure that supports rural production and market opportunity, while noting the significant efforts in the implementation of government policies. The source of our food basket is threatened by competing uses, which is not managed. If it's not managed, reduce significantly South Africa's ability to feed itself and enjoy comparative advantage in agricultural trade. Strong land use planning and management is therefore critical. 3 government departments, the Department of DAF, Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation and Social Development, have worked together to prepare the National Food and Nutrition Security Implementation Plan. The 6 strategic objectives of the plans include, amongst others, the National Multi-Sectoral Food Nutrition Security Council and committees that chairs by our Deputy President, and establishment of inclusive local food value chain and scaling up the impact of nutrition intervention targeting women, infants, and children. More concerted efforts are required towards the promotion of subsistence farming through food gardening and family gardens. DAF and Department of Rural Development, DTI, are working cooperatively towards implementation of the 46 identified agri-parks and acceleration of this program. Agricultural storage capacities must be prioritized for smallholder farmers in order to manage market access instability. The 2017-18 budget allocation sees a slight increase of 292 million from 2016-17. Approximately 75 of these will be allocated to the 3 programs, which is agricultural production, health and food safety, food security and agrarian from forestry and natural resources management. The allocation must be increased in the MTF period in the quest to achieve the MTFS targets, to reduce the percentage of households who are vulnerable to hunger from 11% to 4% 11.4% in 2013 to less than 9.5% by 2019, and to reduce the percentage of population living below bond poverty line from 32% to 22%, and reduce rural unemployment from the current 49% to less than 40%. The department has a number of interventions to assist smallholder producers with technical and infrastructure and financial support, and most significantly, to support the NDP targets of creating 1 million jobs. These interventions are implemented through the department's 3 conditional grants, which are comprehensive agricultural support program, Ilima Litsima, and land care programs. There is also macro agricultural financial institution of South Africa, Mafisa, which was established to complement and optimize the use of established financial intermediation infrastructure and increase outreach in order to improve access to financial services by the poor rural masses. An example of a success story in fishery sector that is also driven by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery is the aquaculture farm in Hamburg, Eastern Cape. This aquaculture farm falls under government Operation Pakisa initiative, and it has conducted its second harvest from its first batch of Daki, Kop, and Kabelju in April this year. Since transfer constitutes a large proportion of the department's budget, we need stronger oversight by the department over its entities and provinces. The committee is concerned that the department focuses on the number of smallholder farmers supported rather than the quality of expenditure outcomes and monitoring of expenditure on the conditional grants to provinces. It is the considered view of the committee that the department needs to prioritize how it plans to help communities with climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies. There is a need for clear alignment of the department's plan with agricultural policy action plan, priority commodities, revitalization of agriculture and agro-processing value chain, agri-parks and Operation Pakisa for agriculture rural development. An agricultural education and training intervention strategy that is linked to the skills development, academic development, and strengthen research and development that provide initiative for and focus on youth needs to be undertaken. These would also help in encouraging and ensuring that young people take up agriculture as a profession. For this initiative to be successful, they must be able to take beneficiaries to farms and link this process with land reform project and the state farms. The President has announced in the 2017 State of the Nation address that 450 smallholder farmers will be commercialized. The department plays a crucial role in the drive to radically transform agriculture, forestry, and fishery industry. This program needs to be driven with greater enthusiasm and energy beyond the sector transformation code. For instance, the department used allocation of fishing rights to transform the fishery sector. Transformation in this sector has been insignificant for decades. While government is determined to push ahead with the radical economic transformation, there are some challenges in the sector which include declining producer support against increasing global competitiveness and disinvestment market concentration, rising input costs, competing land use, climate change, and general lack of infrastructure. In addition, the market dominance, ineffective model of producer support, and natural resource management are all the key challenges to be addressed if the sector is going to make and meaningful contribution to radical socio-economic transformation. The impact of outdated and untransformed legislation such as Fertilizers, Farm Feeds and Agricultural Remedies Act of 1947. The poor communication is creating an incorrect perception that little or no progress is being made, and that this needs to be corrected. The committee expects that the Marine Living Resource Amendment Bill will be tabled in 2017-18 financial year and will reflect recent developments such as rectified tuna agreements, tuna international agreements, and the Port State Measures Agreement. Operation Pakisa has developed aquaculture farms that have been developed through Operation Pakisa, ocean economy. There's a need to be greater focus on small-scale aquaculture development in order to address the demand and the relieve pressure from the ocean. Given the numerous challenges that the agriculture sector is facing, we need research and innovation. The committee is concerned about the impact that the ARC's continuing budget cuts will have on its research activities and ability to raise external revenue, and on possible retrenchment and closure of some of the research facilities. The committee is unhappy with inadequate allocation to this department.
Member, your time is up.
The ANC support the budget. Thank you.
Honorable Stein.
Thank you, Chairperson. I dedicate this budget in honor of our farmers and farm workers who are working tirelessly to put food on our tables. According to a report by UNICEF, every year 75,000 children in South Africa die before their 5th birthday. This same report found that malnutrition contributes to 64% of all these deaths in children under the age of 5. This is a shocking statistic in a country where we do have national food security. It is therefore necessary to scrutinize the role that the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery play in this. The budget allocation of DAF is 6.8 billion rand and is a slight increase of 292 million from 2016-17. With its focus on improving food security, creating decent jobs and sustainably increasing the contribution of the agriculture, forestry and fishery sector to the GDP. This department is unfortunately failing in all these targets and is no credible plan to change this around. Firstly, the allocated budget to the department is only 0.01% of the national budget. This is an indication that government is not taking these industries serious, or that no credible plan has been provided that confidently shows why Treasury must provide it with more funding. When looking at the department's strategic plan, it becomes clear why Treasury does not allocate more funding to it. Some of the department's strategic objectives do not have planned targets. In some cases, the target is set as planning. With transfers and subsidies of 56% of its budgets to provinces and municipalities, little or no monitoring or evaluation of these funds is taking place. This notwithstanding an amount of 60 million rand that was reportedly set aside for the medium-term period for monitoring. During SONA 2017, and the Minister referred to it, President Zuma announced on the, I quote, commercialization of 450 smallholder farmers, unquote. The committee found no clear plan on how the department would achieve this. Just to say we're going to do that doesn't mean it's going to happen. With 5.5 billion rand allocated to support smallholder farmers over the next 3 years, the focus needs to shift from the number of people that needs to be helped to outcomes achieved. At this stage, reporting is done on the budget spent and not on improvement of livelihoods. These are only some of the examples on why the Democratic Alliance does not think that this department has what it takes to grow our agriculture, forestry and fishery sectors into the strong role player it could be in our economy. With an economy currently in a slow growth phase, agriculture could play a massive role and thereby create much needed jobs. Dit maak die DA ook onrustig dat opreiende politieke uitsprake gemaak word wat verdere beleggings in die landbousektor strem. Die politiek waarvan u praat, minister Zokwana. Die huidige droogte wat slegs gedeeltelik gebreek is en die Noord-Kaap, Wes-Kaap en gedeeltes van die Oos-Kaap nog in 'n wurggreep het ons landbousektor onder groot finansiële druk geplaas. Dit word bereken dat die totale landbouskuld nou 144 miljard rand beloop en dat landbouers versigtig is om verdere beleggings in die sektor te maak as gevolg van groot beleidsonsekerheid. Our sector needs all the support it could get to feed the 55 million South Africans and still be able to export to assist with food security internationally while bringing in much needed value into our country. The DA government would focus on recognizing the role that agriculture plays in our economy and take active steps to create an enabling environment for the agricultural growth by increasing the budget for agriculture and land reform in order to play a meaningful role in our economy. Partnering with the private sector in order to facilitate in the meaningful expansion of agricultural production in the potentially arable soil of communal land in high rainfall areas such as the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga in order for it to be brought under full production. Bring policy certainty in a sector which in its very nature is characterized by uncertainty like we could have seen in the drought. While the ANC government is intending to introduce legislation and regulations that will destroy the value of land, potentially ruin our financial sector and drive away internal and external investment, the DA proposals would be focusing on strengthening land rights and providing title to black farmers and homeowners in order to be able to be part of the economy. Investing in training and education. It is sad to see the state of our agricultural colleges and the poor maintenance of infrastructure at these colleges, as was seen in our recent visit in Mpumalanga, where a whole college is just standing empty. Agricultural development support or agricultural extension services, focusing on developing at the skills base of farmers and providing technical services, has been shown across the world to significantly increase raise the extent of land use and to increase output and income. Our extension support has all but collapsed, and farmers are left to fend for themselves. This has had a massive impact on especially our small-scale farmers. We will look at expanding investment in research and development for agriculture. We've just heard that the whole committee is unhappy about our research capacity. While other countries are increasing its budget on research and development, our budget decreased on a year-by-year basis. It was noted that the Agricultural Research Council for budget had an impact on the completion of the foot and mouth disease facility, which is expected to play a significant role in the prevention of foot and mouth disease. We would also look at providing an effective implementing a disaster risk management system for agriculture. The government's response to the recent drought have been slow, sporadic and badly targeted, with concerns of corruption and mismanagement of funds during this extremely difficult period. With predictions that El Nino weather patterns and climate change are likely to increase the severity and incidence of drought in South Africa, we must be prioritizing the development of an agricultural response to climate change. We will have to rethink farming and agricultural relief when the sector is vulnerable to crisis, and that does not only mean drought, it could also be political and economic crisis. Lastly, we must prioritize to keep our rural communities and their property safe. Farm attacks must be classified as a priority crime in order for more resources to be allocated to rural safety units. Currently, SAPS is under-resourced and the rural safety strategy is poorly implemented. This year alone, 37 farmers and farm workers have died on our farms. South African farmers are recognized as part of the best in the world and are ensuring food security under extremely difficult circumstances. Access to food is a basic human right, and with an ever-growing population, it puts massive strain on our farming communities to ensure that food is easily accessible, safe and affordable to everyone. We therefore call on everyone to vote for the DA in 2019 to give us a chance to show you the kind of SA we can build together. Thank you, Chair.
Order, honorable members. I wasn't aware that we have started the campaign already for 2019. Honorable Paulson.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. In a book, An Empty Plate, Dr. Tracy Ledger poses the following question. Why is it that food prices are so high that millions of South Africans go hungry, while the prices paid to farmers for that same food are so low that many cannot stay in business? Why are the people that produce our food, farm workers, among the most insecure of all? Why do the high levels of rural poverty persist while corporate profits in the food sector keep rising? South Africa is one of only 20 countries in the world where the right to food is enshrined in our constitution. Yet, 1 in 4 children is so malnourished that they are classified as stunted. Section 27(1)(b) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa states that everyone has the right to have access to sufficient food and water. This obligation is extended in Section 27(2), according to which the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve the progressive realization of these rights. And Section 28(1)(c) states that every child has the right to basic nutrition, shelter, basic healthcare services, and social services. The Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has a vision: united and transformed agriculture, forestry and fisheries sector that ensures food security for all and economic prosperity. And I agree with the chairperson of the committee and my colleague, Honourable Steyn. Agriculture has the potential to absorb the most labour, but it would require a radical transformation of the agricultural sector. We have seen in the poultry industry alone how in a short period 50,000 jobs were lost due to the import of cheaper, albeit poorer quality poultry products. This is not radical economic transformation. This is a fantastic catastrophe. Our poultry industry cannot compete with their overseas counterparts because of 2 factors. Overseas farmers are subsidized by their governments. South Africa does not impose tariffs to restrict import of cheap poultry products. The poultry industry in South Africa can be revived and offers an opportunity for genuine transformation.
Point of order, Chair.
Order, honourable member. What's the point of order?
This member has read the same speech in the
Order,
DTI
honourable
yesterday.
member. That's not the point of order. Can you take your seat?
The poultry industry in South Africa can be revived and offers an opportunity for genuine transformation due to the established market for these products. It would require government's participation, but most importantly, it would require a government capable of being bold and courageous, not this ANC. This department plans to support 300,000 smallholder producers by 2019, but thus far it only managed less than 24,000. We know that the access to land is the responsibility of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform. These 2 departments' plans are not aligned towards achieving this objective, and the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries may never achieve its target. In fact, it will never achieve its targets. This ANC is an ANC of talk and no action. Although the department has one of its programs, a household food nutritional program, there is no visible intervention to empower poor households to produce their own food. This department prioritizes big business when it comes to allocating fishing quotas. Many fishing communities experience dire poverty because they have been denied their livelihood through the corrupted allocation process. Even here, the department lacks imagination. Globally, 50% of the fish consumed comes from aquaculture. In South Africa, less than 1% of the fish consumed comes from aquaculture. Very soon, South Africa will have to import timber and timber products due to the shortage of timber. This is due both to a lack of planning and poor management. Minister, there's a Chinese proverb. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. Until this budget for this department would be able to adequately respond to the crisis of nutritional security of poor people, until this budget will incorporate the transformation of agriculture, forestry and fisheries, which would see a greater participation of the working class. The economic freedom fighters has no choice but to reject this budget. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Ngizocela ilungu elihloniphekile umhlonishwa uCebekhulu.
Thank you, House Chair. The policies of this department, whilst appearing very good on paper, seem to have been lost in translation. As to date, they have proven to be of very little effect in the alleviation of poverty and food security amongst the vast majority of our rural people. It is common knowledge that our rural areas are bound with vast land in fertile soil, and yet they remain underutilized. Departmental programs begin with great fanfare and then fade into oblivion. One example being the provision of tractors to provinces to assist smallholder farmers in plowing communal land areas. One wonders what happened to those tractors as the land today lies fallow in these areas. Subsistence and smallholder farmers need the department's continued assistance and expertise if there is to be sustainable skills transfer and development. Fly-by-night schemes will not provide the results we are looking for. Commercial farms that were previously providing large-scale employment and producing a great deal, but were then purchased by rural development land reform, are now bankrupt. Their fields fallow, and their once employed labor now form part of our unemployed statistics. Food security for our nation remains a concern precisely because we are not effectively using the arable land that we have. Dependency is replacing innovation, skills development, and entrepreneurship in our agricultural communities. As a result, the country cannot feed its people, and we are required to import from other countries food that at times is alleged to be unhealthy. The use of GMOs remain major concern, especially since no long-term studies have as yet been concluded, proving their safety in human consumption. In this respect, the IFP had requested the Human Rights Commission to intervene, and we are pleased to announce that a national platform will soon be established under the stewardship of the HRC, in which a national debate and study on the safety of GMO consumption by human beings will be undertaken. Pesticide use is another area of grave concern, particularly around the widespread usage of glyphosate, which is in products such as Monsanto's Roundup, with the cancer research arm of the World Health Organization declared in 2015 that glyphosate, the world's most widely used herbicide, is probably carcinogenic to humans. This again must be properly investigated. On fisheries side, overfishing and poaching in our territorial waters by foreign vessels are severely impacting our already depleting resources. Light judicial sentences and policing will not assist in this fight. A coordinated and well-resourced marine policing unit is required, and the South African Navy should be deployed to assist. Pier fishing are subsistence fishermen and should be treated with care. They are not poachers. And lastly, the issuing of fishing permits must not be a privilege afforded to only large commercial companies. Care must be taken that we do not leave our emerging small groups behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
I support the budget anyway.
Siyabonga ngitawucela nyalo lilunga lehloniphekile nabe nginene umncwabe.
Ya ngiyabonga hlalo noma umuntu enomkhuhlane nje. Minister, Deputy Minister and all ministers present, honorable members, distinguished guests and farmers present here. The Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has its stated focus priority to increase our national food security, to create jobs and improve the contribution of the agricultural sector to the national GDP. To achieve these core objectives, the budget for the department has been slightly increased to 6.8 billion for the financial year 2017-2018. Public entities account for 19% of the department's budget in 2017-2018 financial year, and the total amount of grants constitutes slightly more than a third of the department's budget. The high proportion of transfers require strengthened oversight by the department through regular monitoring and evaluation of entities and conditional grant spending by provinces, which, with an emphasis on compliance with the prescribed procurement processes and sound generally accepted accounting practices. Ultimately, Chair, there is a need to determine whether the funds that are allocated to the department and its entities through different programs translate to actual service delivery, particularly in rural and underserviced areas. The NFP is in agreement with the observation and recommendations of the committee. In particular, we are concerned about the lack of explicit targets on how the department will capacitate communities to deal with the climate change, how to mitigate the effects, and how to cultivate adaptation to the challenges. The recent drought in large parts of our country should be a wake-up call for South Africa. And we believe that climate change and its effects on agricultural sector must be given a high priority, with a particular emphasis on capacitating emergent black farmers. We also share the concern of the committee that there is no mention of the department's plans to address the crisis in the poultry industry. Jobs are lost daily and industries in crisis, crying out for government to develop a strategy to combat the effects of dumping. The department should, in our view, move swiftly to intervene and mitigate the crisis, and should perhaps consider using unfortunate present crisis to decentralize the production of poultry and establish small-scale rural production centers. Finally, we believe that the future of agriculture in our country will depend on capacitating our youth today. The NFP therefore calls on the department to increase its effort to develop and implement projects and plans to make agriculture an attractive sector for employment and entrepreneurship for our young people.
Honorable Member,
In
your time
conclusion,
is up.
Minister, we fully support your budget. Thank you.
Ilunga elihloniphekile usekela ngqongqoshe umhlonishwa ucele Ndosi.
Madam Chairperson, Honorable Minister of DAF, Honorable Miss, present here, Deputy Ministers, Chairperson of Portfolio Committee, Members of Parliament, MSCs, distinguished guests, members of media, ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes. This is the year of our struggling stalwart Oliver Reginald Tambo, who would be turning 100 years if he had lived on. So it is indeed the good time to draw from the wisdom of this giant, who did not only become the liberator of South Africans, but was a scientist, mathematician, teacher, barrister, and indeed nurtured by a small farming community of Bizana. Owaru Tambo once said, I quote, "Centuries of colonial oppression have been ended for many millions, and for many millions more to struggle of liberation is reaching new heights. We do not doubt that within our lifetime, the millions still oppressed throughout the world will govern themselves freely, unquote. The emphasis of our oppression here is the world hunger, more in particular the starvation of South Africans. The world boasts of enhanced science for food production, tons and tons of food produced by the world, especially by conglomerates and big agricultural industrialists. But how come that out of 7 billion people with all these tons and tons of food produced, 760 million people go to bed without food in the world, and 2 billion kids are underfed, and that is why they are stunted. The case is not better in South Africa. The figure varies, but the scary trend of people going to bed without food in South Africa should be fought and defeated. Maybe the debate that was raised by Honorable Steyn is for other day, whether it's insufficiency of food or inaccessibility of food. That's what. So if agriculture people produce food and retailers don't give food, we have to debate that. Don't bundle agriculture together with retailers. The emphasis...
Missed that sign, Minister.
Figures given by the Food and Agriculture FAO and other credible institutions show that 12 million people in 2012 in South Africa went to bed without food, and that figure in 2016 has grown into a scary figure of 14.3 million people. Maybe the answer is found in the writing of Professor Wadada Naputere, where he explained, I quote, "Under which life and plant forms genetically modified in this way could be patented as private property and protected under the international legal regime. Thus, through this manipulative reductionist science, a few monopolies were able to establish a legal and moral basis for controlling not only the basis of livelihood and population reproduction, they had gone further to claim the right to reproduce or destroy real life forms and plants," unquote. Furthermore, the same quotation from the same book, "The market of fertilizers, high yield seeds, pesticides, mechanization, irrigation, credit system, and global marketing schemes packaged by agribusiness monopolies had an objective of replacing small-scale farming with the new agribusiness enterprise. Systematically so, cutting all what people used to do for themselves and are trying to do by the big business and those that they run the world. Take care of that. This tells us, Tula, this tells us a story that we need to go back to the basic. We need to make sure that farming in South Africa is injected with young and new blood of South Africa. At the present moment, the average age of farmers in South Africa is 60, and those farmers are most probably white African male. Therefore, it would be appropriate for this department to embark on the aggressive program to put black youth, in particular Africans, in this domain of agriculture. To achieve this, Chairperson, since the inception of external bursary scheme, 1,222 young people have benefited from a variety of bursary awards. Of this total, 652 of them successfully completed their tertiary qualification and are currently contributing to the economy as part of their labor force in the country. And quite a big number of them are master's degrees and PhDs. Clap some hands. For the 2017 academic year, 20 million has been budgeted and 318 students are being funded to further their studies in various fields identified as scarce in the sector. In total, 156.7 million rand has been spent since the inception of the scheme by this department. In line with the National Youth Policy 2020, the department has developed the Young Producers and Entrepreneurs Strategy. The strategy aims to support the establishment of youth-owned and or managed enterprises. Through the strategy, the department is supporting 261 unemployed youth through various programs. Of the 221 unemployed graduates, 183 are currently placed in various units within the department to gain work experience and experiential training to make them ready for the job market. 25 are placed on the Perishable Products Export Control Board as export technologists, and 53 are placed at Identify Agricultural Policy Action so that they can get experience and work together going forward. This increases our capacity as a country for export readiness. 53 graduates are deployed to various private commodity farms to be groomed as young entrepreneurs. In addition to this, young farmers will be trained as part of the 18,000 smallholder farmers in the capacity building program of comprehensive agricultural support program that is implemented by the department. The program was launched in June 2016 in Swane. That is the YAF. That is young people on agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. And that will be an annual kind of the event that will again take place, inviting these young people to be part of the progressive agricultural activities. As we know that the department has the forestry branch, which is one of the biggest industries of the world, and moreover, bringing a lot of money in the respective countries, South Africa will have to grow too. And again, the growth here will have to be targeted and be systematic. The young African population, especially women, will have to be assisted to find their way to this branch of economy. It is for that reason that the department is working hard to plant many trees as part of Million Trees a Year project, working with the communities and households, improving the focus in the natural trees and the fruit trees. As an effort to reverse the scourge of starvation, we are pushing hard to commercially plant 100,000 hectares of trees, and also we will invite and encourage young people to be part of that process, but also invite our sister departments like DTI to open opportunities for young people to be the part of this massive agro-processing in this industry. Also, we recognize the long period of wait in this industry. It is on that score that we are increasing opportunities of agroforestry so that young people that are entrants don't wait for too long before they can benefit. Let us make a clarion call. Mamustein, I came to you some time back, and I reported to you that your members, DA farmers, yes, I came to you. And I said, can you help us? We go to West Coast, where a certain Mr. Mohammed, who is a farmer, is squeezed out by the white DA farmers. As farmers in that area, they share everything, they share their machines and all. But when it comes to him, even when he pays, they refuse to him. They are squeezing out of his farm because they want his farm. So that invitation stands for me and you to go there. It doesn't help to come here and talk about everything, but stop racism, which is still a scourge allowing black farmers to grow in the Republic of South Africa. I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. We'll have to deal with killings on farms, but both for farmers and the farm workers and the communities. For you to come here and talk about farm killing and don't talk about Colini, where the African farmers, they kill young person and they're in court as we speak. It doesn't bother well as if you're dealing with the matters. Remember, when you talk about them, farmers as victims, but also talk about farm workers as victims, and we must deal with those matters overwhelmingly so that we begin to understand.
Chairperson, standing on Rule 92, point of order, the Deputy Minister is misleading the House. I specifically spoke about farmers and farm workers, and I said the word farm workers and farmers twice in my speech.
No. Okay.
Thank you. I thought you would remember Colini. I hope you would. But having said so, it doesn't help to come here and fight over these matters. What it helps much is to talk about and make sure. I'm not picking the fight. No, if I pick the fight, if I wanted to pick the fight, I would have picked the fight on behalf of Mbali Ntuli. If I wanted to pick up the fight, because it's a young little girl, beautiful, bright, and all that you are victimizing for one and one reason only. It happened that is black and has made a call on your missus. That's a reason. That's a fight. That's a fight I would have picked.
On a point of order, Chairperson. Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy Minister, there's a point of order.
Yes, Chairperson.
Yeah, just to assist us, honorable members. This is a mini plenary. We will try our level best not to have point of orders after point of orders, because we want the debate to flow without being personal, without taking anything out of context. That's what we are trying to do. Yes, Chief.
Thank you, Chairperson. I rise on a point of order wherein the Deputy Minister refers to an MPL of the DA as a little girl. I find it deeply offensive, I find it deeply ageist, and I find it deeply sexist. And I would like for you to ask for him to withdraw.
Well, Chairperson, it happens that I know her at the age of 3. I know...
Honorable Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, did you say that? A little car.
Well, I withdraw. This big honorable member of legislature that I know at the age of 3, together with the father, I work with the father together. That's how I know her. So that's a battle I'll pick up, and I'm telling you, will be part of picking. I'm glad that your leader, Honorable Maimane, said he will come and defend her when he's attacked by those that are defending Mrs. So the point is a racism. The point is the point is a chosen
Honorable
racism.
members, let us allow him a platform to be heard. Honorable Deputy Minister.
The point is a racism that you don't want to talk about. But having said all this, I'm inviting
Honorable
Mrs.
Deputy Minister, take your seat. Honorable members, we are making a request. Let us not disturb speakers by point of order after point of order. Firstly, the point of order, they are not in order themselves. We are not quoting the rule. And then we can't allow that to happen because otherwise we can disturb other members from articulating their view and narrate their story.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Is it parliamentary for a member to call another one racist, as the Honorable member said there?
Honorable Deputy Minister, please continue.
Well, I'm inviting Mrs. Stein to go and talk to your members there to say, this race thing they're doing there, please. And I invited you before. You promised to come. This time I'll grab you by arm and make sure that together, we go there so that we tell DA members to say those days of treating people through their faces because they're black must come to an end. And we're all human beings. So that is my invitation. You can invite Mr. Van Dam if you want to, or any other honorable members, or Van Dalen. It's similar with Van Dam. So if you like, we can all go and make sure that that thing stops. But generally...
Please, Deputy Minister, conclude.
But at the end of the day, we believe that if we work together, we stop racism, we stop looking at faces, South Africa will be better, and people like Aru Tambo will rest peacefully where they are for having fought a good fight to make sure that all South Africans live together in a peaceful way. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Fitane.
The URM supports the budget vote, but let me dissect the amoeba. The departmental policy of transferring 55% of its budget to provinces and public entities does need to be reviewed and be given sharp teeth. The reason for that is that provinces continue to fail to account properly for these transfers. Whilst transfers are a legal mandate, the regular flouting of the Public Finance Management Act by provinces without consequences means that the policy must be armed with sufficient biting tools so that public money is accounted for. On the other hand, the allocation of a mere 975 million to the ARC is far from being sufficient, considering the strategic importance of this institution. Their ineffectiveness will be like walking into a dark room without a light. Is of farms, a department. Moreover, if things go according to plan, Ngaka Farms in the Eastern Cape is due to be taken over by the Agricultural Research Council during the course of this financial year, and they will need some budget to be able to operate that efficiently. It's a poor departmental decision that the OPP has no budget allocation at all this year, yet its decaying infrastructure of 1960 is in dire need of a revamp. This will have a negative impact on the quality and quantity of livestock with no appropriate medication for them. The poor planning capacity of the department is reflected by the fact that the committee had to send the department packing 2 times before they could submit a smart plan to the committee. Alignment of targets with performance indicators was consistently lacking. In particular, the department is very poor in monitoring its own entities. Also, the department has not sufficiently profiled the attendant risks, yet we have just come out of a devastating drought as well as diseases outbreaks. The department is still drafting a mitigating strategy 2 years after the devastating drought, still planning. Without an ability to monitor, which is beyond reproach, it becomes very difficult to support the department's need for additional funding, needed as it is. On one of the days, the department came to present its budget. Neither the minister, his deputy, nor the director general were present. Are they serious about this business? One would have thought that this is supposed to be the second most important date in their diaries. Today being the most important one, they planned otherwise. This reflects very badly on the planning capacity of the department. The department is way behind in the use of technology in its production methods. On the other hand, the use of indigenous knowledge is not factored in all of its plans. As a result, most rural farmers are perpetual learners on how to produce their own daily food. This exposes them to ever-rising costs on how to survive, let alone being players in the economic space. This is the most intriguing form of disempowerment of the rural poor. When a culture is ignored, as has been the case with the Pluma Act of 2013, you hit a snag, which is why this piece of legislation is not being implemented. So in hoc casu, more people are poorer even as they have land. So please do not distill these cultural methods of producing food. You're making people poorer. Land ownership remains a stumbling block for farmers who want to get credit. We've got to move in that direction, as they say, as the Zuma administration. I'm referring to you, the ANC people. Move. The department needs to work very closely with the Department of Rural Development. Wake up. The fisheries sector faces ongoing strike. If it has no transformation charter, and as a result, there are no clear policy guidelines on the allocation of fishing rights. However, we will welcome the promises made by the minister today regarding giving appropriate attention to the problems besetting the fisheries sector. I thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Fultan. Honorable Mapanga. Honorable members, please allow him his maiden speech.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers available, Honorable Members, our distinguished guests, I greet you all. Sanibonani. Honorable Chairperson, speaking on behalf of the ruling party, the ANC, as one voice we fully support this budget vote since we believe that it is a key to create a better life for all and further deepening our unity as South Africans in this year of our President, O.R. Tambo. Quoting our State President, His Majesty, the Honorable Jacob Zuma, on the SONA 2017, it is my honor to remind you that the main focus of the ANC reigniting growth in the economy for the sole purpose of creating employment for our people. Guided by the National Development Plan and the ANC policy, I present to you ideals that we seek to attain as the ANC in promoting of the social and economic transformation. That is reducing unemployment, increasing black ownership and control in the economy, activating small business and cooperative, dismantling monopoly practices and structures, reducing inequality and poverty. I close quote. Honorable Chair, these are crucial in unifying us as a democratic nation. By supporting the budget vote, we further ensure that our people who make their living in the ocean of our country will also benefit from the labor. That is why the small-scale fishery policy will remain an important milestone in ongoing work of transforming the structure and the character of the South African economy. The policy aims to provide rights to small-scale fishing communities and to ensure that they have equal access to marine resources. The fisheries sector contributes over 7 billion per annum to the economy, or about 0.6% of the GDP of South Africa. Approximately 734,000 people derive their livelihood from wild fisheries, while most of the commercial fishing activities occur in the productive waters of the Western Cape. Honorable Chair, the National Development Plan underscores the point that people should be able to access high-quality basic services that enable them to be well-nourished, healthy, and increasingly skilled. This is where industrialization through agro-processing and fishery work to our advantage. Honorable Chair, small-scale fisheries support approximately 700,000 fisheries comprising over 140 communities. This will increase to approximately 30,000 with the implementation of the small-scale fishery policy. The small-scale fishers compete with a booming recreational fishing sector, which occur along the entire coastline involving about 700,000 fishers. Honorable Chair, another critical factor is that the department lacks capacity to protect its stocks, a lot of which are being poached, and the department has gone against the recommendation of its scientists on the acceptable stock be harvested and allocated right beyond the sustainable level. This issue must be addressed urgently. The National Development Plan paints a bleak picture that while climate change is the chief ecological challenge, other close links also pose serious risks, such as water scarcity, pollution, and depleted fishing stock. 90% of edible fish stock have already been fished out. The challenge of implementation of the SSS policy. Small-scale fisheries are faced with a number of challenges with regard to the implementation of the SSF policy, and the department has dealt with many of these. This includes the 3-year duration of small-scale fishery rights, which is considered too short. In order to address other challenges such as the insufficient involvement of youth, women, and persons with disability in the fishing sector, the department has proposed that the cooperative established can be used to train youth in the community. Marine resources are limited, and the prevailing trend is decrease in resources availability as reflected in the DAF's annual status of South African marine fisheries resources. The commercial species which are of interest to both sectors have already allocated in the commercial sector in terms of previously rights allocated processes. These rights only expire in 2020. Furthermore, commercial rights have recently been allocated in net fish, seeds, beach, seeds, and expire in 2028. In order to ensure that small-scale fishers are able to sustain their livelihood, the department has proposed that they be prioritized in the allocation of rights for abalone and lobster, which has not yet been allocated to commercial fisheries before. In the light of the challenges faced by small fisheries who fish in order to make a living, the department must revisit the policy and all legislation that allow recreation fishing. The NDP conceived that the use of marine resources should be primarily be for human consumption and job creation rather than sport. Honorable Chair, it is because of these aforementioned factors that we support the budget. The ANC support this budget. Vote 24, the agriculture, forest and fisheries. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Melder.
Thank you, the Minister, for the minute of silence, sir. Sir, we all took notice of the Arab Spring uprisings and other revolutions in different countries. What is the possibility that the same may happen in South Africa? Recently, a prominent leader said that the strategic essentials to avoid the revolution and conflict in South Africa is good defense, police, and intelligence. Sir, he's wrong. The strategic essentials are not defense, police, and intelligence. It is water, energy, and food security through agriculture. Cut water, cut energy, and cut food, and you have a revolution. Wat moet ons doen om dit te voorkom? Die antwoord is eenvoudig, en dis wat ek vandag wil oordra. Kom ons neem landboubesluite op grond van feite en feite alleen. Meeste van ons huidige probleme is omdat landboubesluite op grond van politieke propagandastellings en mythes geneem word. Omdat besluite geneem word op grond van politiek geskepte persepsies en op grond van eensydige stereotypes, dis ons probleem. Kom ek gee vir 'n voorbeeld. Dis 'n stereotype om te sê alle swart boere is onbekwaam en misluk. Dis nie waar nie, want daar is heelwat swart kommersiële boere wat suksesvol is. Maar net so meneer is dit ook 'n fout om te sê alle wit boere is rasiste wat hulle werkers sleg behandel. Dis 'n totale leuen soos navorsing en feite sal bevestig. So I want to repeat this in English. My urgent message today is that it is in the best interest of all the people of South Africa and of the government that all agricultural decisions must be taken on cold facts. At the moment, most agricultural decisions are taken in reaction to political propaganda statements and myths. Decisions are taken on politically created perceptions and one-sided stereotypes. All black farmers are not failures, and all white farmers are not racist, treating their workers badly as an example. Let me give another example. All white people are rich because they own farms. I hear that in debates and in conversations in this parliament. It's totally untrue. In the last census, there were 4.2 million whites out of a population of 55 million. That's less than 9%. In 1980, there had been around 128,000 commercial farmers, which had dropped to 58,000 in 1997 and about 35,000 today. If you wrongly accept that all commercial farmers are white, and that's wrong, 35,000 from 4.2 million whites is 0.8 or less than 1% of the white population. So predictions are that this would drop to 15,000 in the next 15 years. We are not all farmers. We are all city dwellers. Urbanization is in Africa at 58%, and in South Africa already 62%. In the cities, we all need food, produced by this small number of white and black commercial farmers. Let me give you a footnote. The majority of the Freedom Front Plus supporters are not farmers. The majority of our farmers is in Gauteng and Western Cape cities. You know, you need 45,000 to 50,000 votes to get one member elected to Parliament. So if every commercial farmer, 35,000 voted for us, we can't get one member elected. Kom ek gee vir nog 'n mite. Die mite is dat grond alleen jou kan ryk maak as ons elkeen het grond en plaasgrond. Ek sê vir die sonder kundigheid en sonder jare se ervaring gaan grond jou arm maak, en ek kan jou voorbeelde noem. Commercialization of smallholder farmers is a priority. Of course, we need more successful black commercial farmers. But the Government Department of Agriculture is not structured to farm. At the moment, government has more failures than successes where they try to establish black commercial farmers. So the most important reason is that these farmers do not own the land. It still belongs to government. But the non-government organizations, something like Grain South Africa, had success. Let them take you to the more than 24,000 black farmers that they helped and go and visit them. Gaan kyk na die wolbedryf. Hulle het 7,000 swart boere suksesvol gehelp uiteindelik. Waarom hoor ons hierdie nie genoeg nie? Dis die negativiteit. So on land reform, I believe we are wasting valuable money and energy trying to restore people to their peasant ways. Figures show that the majority of South Africans do not want farmland, white and black. They want to go to cities, they want to own a cell phone and a BMW and work in a modern economy. Let's help them by giving them titleship in their houses and a piece of land in the city, as it happens in all modern economies, while the black and white commercial farmers out there are left to produce food. That is the future. That's economy that can work, not all the political dreams that we hear of every day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Mulder. Honorable Tongwa.
Chairperson, Minister and Deputy Ministers, all protocol observed. Allow me, Chairperson, to first of all indicate that the ANC supports Budget Vote 24. The ANC philosophical and policy orientation to the forestry sector is guided by the White Paper on Sustainable Forest Development of 1996, which outlines the role of forestry in rural development. The policy direction clearly breaks with the narrow outlook of the past. ANC as government is concerned with far wider issues that impact on the lives and well-being of all of our people, and forestry policy must reflect these concerns. We have developed the new stream of community forestry and agroforestry, supplementing commercial forestry by endeavors that are nearer to the people's needs. It aims to improve the living condition of all our people through projects and programs. Forestry is rurally based, and there is a natural link between it and the rural population. It can provide employment, building materials, fuel, and craft materials. The broad aim of forestry policy is to weld together the three strands of conservation forestry, commercial forestry, and community forestry. The overall goal of government is to promote a thriving forest sector, utilized to the lasting and sustained benefit of the total community, and developed and managed to protect and to improve the environment. The philosophical approach of the RDP is one that seeks integration and coherent socio-economic progress. This includes the new community forestry program. The principles that underscore our approach to forestry as the ANC are informed by the rationale that forests must be developed and managed so as to conserve biological diversity, ecosystems, and habitats, sustain the potential yield of their economic, social, and environmental benefits, promote the fair distribution of their economic, social, health, and environmental benefits, conserve natural resources, especially soil and water, advance persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by historic discrimination. There are challenges identified from impact assessment of ANC policy in forestry sector, and they include low afforestation rate due to cumbersome licensing processes, underinvestment in long rotation timber such as saw logs, risks associated with climate change and variability manifesting through fires, pests, and diseases, slow pace of transformation since the gazetting of the Transformation Charter, cumbersome water licensing requirements. In order to address this, specific action has been taken. There has been a review of conditions around issuing water licenses, that is regulatory conditions and compliance costs for small growers. With regards to processing support for pole treatment, saw milling, and in particular implementation of deliberate policies that favor SMMEs, for example, small growers grant. Utilization of settlement of land claims process to transform the sector. Approximately 50% of forestry land is under land claims. In Program 5, while this program has historically been underfunded, it seems that the department has still struggled to spend the budget allocated, which was apparently due to capacity problems. Funds has been transferred between programs. A closer look at the forestry and natural resource management program in terms of progress assessment provides evidence of the ongoing revitalized, although targets have had to be altered downwards. As of 2016-2017, the department would no longer measure the targets by the number of hectares that has been revitalized, but by the number of projects supported. The National Treasury mid-year report reflected that the department would not meet its annual targets set for the number of hectares planted in the forestry program. The annual targets were revised downwards due to the freezing of some posts, the reprioritization of funds towards the Forestry Congress, and the reduction in the budget due to anticipated underspending. To promote transformation in the sector, the Forest Sector Transformation Charter was launched in 2007. The budget vote is an appropriate event to assess its impact against monies allocated through the vote of funds. It is both a transformation and a growth charter. Part of this transformation relates to the main objective of the Forest Sector Charter, which extends economic opportunities and benefits of the forest sector to the previously disadvantaged black groups. Progress on the Forestry Sector Charter has had mixed results and has not realized the outcome that were envisaged at its launch 10 years ago in 2007. Lack of progress can be attributed to human factors and the national question. The major problem is in water licensing and availability of land, as land claims are causing uncertainty in the industry. the Forest Sector Charter Council view about progress and performance towards the implementation of broad-based black economic empowerment in the forestry sector is that there are challenges. In conclusion, Chairperson, the department, through the National Afforestation Technical Task Team, has requested the Department of Water and Sanitation to set standards for the time required to process a license. Through the task team of the Forest Sector Transformation Charter, DAF is exploring options to establish funding mechanisms for small growers and the other small producers in the forestry sector. The ANC supports this budget vote.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tungwan. Honorable Chaisa.
Should I pull it a little bit higher? Honorable Chairperson, for the sake of progress, success, and for the sake of service delivery, we as AIC supported this budget vote number 24 on the 24th of May 2017. This department is a living department. It is expected to contribute a lot to the growth of the South African economy, and in accordance with the NTP, it is expected to create 1 million jobs by 2030. And I wonder how many of us now will be still alive then. Perhaps we'll be the only one. This will be reducing the rate of unemployment. If this can be the case in all departments, then the challenge of unemployment now can be just something of the past, because all departments now would be trying to create jobs by 2030. Food and security, the creation of decent jobs, and the contribution to the gross domestic product should be in the forefront. The 6.8 billion that has been allocated to this department cannot be regarded as a big slide. It has got too many entities to financial support, together with programs, and also to make transfers to 9 provinces. The financial resources that are allocated to these provinces and entities should be thoroughly monitored. A lot goes to Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, CASP, and it has been seen to be doing well for the smallholder farmers. This department should make it clear how the smallholder farmers or producers can access the markets. It would be good for the department to give support to them as a group, not as individuals. And again, a creditable database should be created to make it easy to monitor and evaluate these entities. Monitoring and evaluation of these entities will always be important. Honorable Chairperson, however, you cannot turn a blind eye to the contribution that is being made by the sectors of forestry and fisheries in this department. The tree plantation that department has been engaging with the communities must not be discontinued, because it has been one of the ways of keeping the communities busy and again sort of giving them some form of temporary livelihood. We also appreciate the fact that the department has come to consider the importance of giving fishing rights to the people living along the coast, because this is the only living these people depend on. Many people have lost lives fighting over these fishing rights along the coast. We therefore appreciate the intervention that is being made by the department. Coming to land, the only 8 million hectares of land that has been transferred to the people should be properly utilized for both living and agriculture. However, Chairperson, it is not correct that only 8 hectares of land out of 82 million of hectares of land has so far been transferred since 1994. More efforts now should be made to get land to the people. Honorable Chairperson, apparently we do not have a problem with the maize production in South Africa. We've got enough to satisfy the domestic demand. The government, however, should devise means of how to help the smallholders farmers with their production of maize. The department should assist them to find markets. Agricultural product is a powerful catalyst for inclusive growth and socio-economic transformation. This sector has got really potential to create these jobs that I spoke about to grow the economy of the country. We should therefore focus on the revitalization of agriculture as one of the 9-point plan strategies of NTP. Operation Pakisha should be order of the day.
Please conclude.
Come again? Yeah. You say I should continue? Okay, conclude. Honorable Chairperson, farm killings now should be collectively fought against because this has been something that bad happening in our farms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Chairperson. You know what, the Minister of Health is here. The Minister of, before you start my time, please, can we get some vet to sort out the cats that's on heat, please? Chairperson, sadly, according to reports, 246,425 farmers were affected by the 2015-2016 drought. Although droughts don't discriminate, government did discriminate against farmers when offering drought assistance. Minister, can you please provide the House with detailed information on the drought assistance provided? What provisions are being made for the Eastern Cape, the Northern Cape, and the Western Cape that is with the current drought-stricken areas? The Congress of the People remains concerned about the impact of mining on agricultural land. Fracking seems to be the modern gold rush, with false promises of economic development and job creation. What government and these fracking corporations don't tell our communities is that fracking creates very few low-skilled jobs, and it is a low-paying jobs, and it's a highly skilled field. The fracking process requires pumping 20 million litres of much-needed water, sand, and toxic chemicals for each well. A current nationwide water shortage highlights the fact that we are a water-scarce country. Our water rights are already oversubscribed, and we will face a state of civil and economic instability if we disregard the rights of the agricultural economy in providing for the nation's food security. Fracking and natural gas extraction is a national threat to food and to water, and consequently to our environment, social and economic well-being, with detrimental long-term effects. Fracking is an agricultural and human right issue. A vote for fracking is a vote against the people of South Africa. Minister, what is the reason for the deterioration of our agricultural colleges? What has the department done to try and intervene? The Public Protector is currently finalising its report on the Agri-CETA that is embroiled in allegations of maladministration and corruption and inefficiency. Did we intervene? Minister, what are the reasons for the delay on the Agri-BEE Charter? Is the department, cabinet, and all the provincial departments at one and serious about financing and implementation of the Agriculture Pakisa initiative? Redistribution of farms in democratic South Africa is a worthy goal, and transformation in the industry is a necessity. It is reported that government owns 4,323 farms, all awaiting to be transferred to land reform beneficiaries. But Minister, how many of these farms are still productive? Does it make any economic and food security sense to expropriate more farms if government does not have a capacity to transfer the farms they already bought? In 1986, South Africa had some 70,000 commercial farmers that created 1.2 million jobs. Sadly, today the figure has dropped below 35,000 to 30,000, and it's still having to feed 50 million mouths. How far is the land audit we've been hearing of for years? Underused land in communal areas is in fact in tribal land. Is the ANC bold enough to lead us and to ensure that rural communities obtain security of tenure even in tribal land? The Land Holdings Bill, Honourable Minister, will have a devastating effect on commercial agriculture for various reasons. At the moment, The land holding bill is one of the biggest concerns to the agricultural sector. And Minister, I cannot agree with you more. Let us not politicize and racialize agriculture. Farmers, black and white, need policy certainty as we are scaring away investment in farming, creating uncertainty within the existing farming community, and ultimately, we are undermining food security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van Dalen.
Achtbare Speaker, graag wil ek die vissermanne en vroue welkom heet hier in die parlement. Hulle is die sout van die aarde. Hulle ken visvang en het groot geword in visvangfamilies. Hulle is die mense wat u minister saam met die departement en sy beleide tot armoede gevonnis het. Terwyl jy nog lekker lê en slaap in die weelde en 4 uur die oggend, gaan hulle see toe om kos op die tafel te sit vir hulle families. Hulle ken niks anders nie. Hulle is die mense wat u gefaal het. Hierdie vissermanne behoort aan 'n hegte familie, wat saam bly is as die vis byt, en saam huil as een van hulle nie terugkeer van die see af nie. Ons staan ook saam en baklei as iemand hulle onregverdig behandel. Hulle is nie die leliewit industrie waarvan u praat nie, minister. That is why, Honourable Minister, I've invited them, the fishing community, to join me today, so that you can hear the plight of our fisher family, a family to which you and the honourable members of this committee also belong. As the minister, you assume a father figure role. The father is the head of the family and can be strict but firm with the discipline. The role of the mother is assumed by the officials of the department, including the Director General and the Deputy Director General. The mother is meant to nurture and show equal love and sympathy to all her children. A mother listens and is the cornerstone of any family. We also have a grandmother whose role is assumed by the Portfolio Committee and the chairperson. The grandmother performs an oversight role. She's a safe haven for them all. She does not pick sides. She does what is good for the whole family. That is a normal family. Unfortunately, ours is a dysfunctional family. In our family, the father fails to provide equal protection to all members of the fishing community. By taking away rights to fish, the minister has, with a stroke of his pen, sentenced 800 fishermen and women in the sector to a life of poverty where their children will go to bed hungry. 90% of these 800 unsuccessful fishermen are not white, Minister, but previously disadvantaged. You are just spreading the poverty thinner. The mother is not any better. She too has failed our family. The DDG has shown disregard to the plight and the cries of the communities who feel prejudiced by the fishing allocation process. The DDG, by reducing the fishing quotas by 90%, has condemned these communities to a life of hunger and poverty. Instead of ensuring that these communities are fed, the minister's department has instead chosen to feed the patronage system. Both the mother and the father of this family have acted against the very people who depend on them. But what about us as the committee? What have we as the grandmother done to comfort and solve the problems of these fishing communities? We have done nothing. We turned them away. Fish depletion or scarcity of fish resources are no longer the biggest threat to the fishing industry. The Department of Fisheries is the most dangerous threat to the fishing industry. They don't seem to know that they are playing Russian roulette with the lives of our people. Achtbare Speaker, hierdie is 'n baie emosionele onderwerp en graag wil ons by u hoor, achtbare minister, hoe u hierdie probleem gaan aanspreek. U kan nie net bloot die skouers optrek nie. Verduidelik asseblief vir hierdie vissermanne, hier familie, hier teenwoordig, wat u gaan doen om hierdie humanitêre ramp af te weer. Om net van een te steel en vir die ander te gee, is nie die oplossing nie, minister. U moet 'n regverdige vader wees. Dit is tog 'n plig, minister. Dit is verder 'n skreiende skande dat die eie kinders hulle ouers moet hof toe neem om geregtigheid te laat geskied. Maar kom ek beloof vandag vir u een ding, minister. Ons sal hier in hierdie parlement en in die hof baklei dat die bloed sou loop, maar u sal ons nie onderkry nie. Baie dankie.
Thank you very much, Honourable Malloy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. because I have limited time, I will not mention everybody who's here by name. Just allow me to greet your house in our gallery from corner to corner. Now, having said so, Honourable Minister, Chair, I think we all agree with a notion, and with all those young and women who are out there, who say to us that agriculture is the backbone of any country. It plays a crucial role in the overall growth of any country. It doesn't matter in which continent is that country from. Now, amongst those writers and those thinkers who think a lot around this field, there is one that I liked because when he wrote some of these things, he said we must pause. And I hope all of you will pause and think carefully. And he says, imagine a world without food, without restaurants, grocery stores. Imagine children lying in the middle of the street because they've gone for days, even weeks, without eating anything. Imagine waking up every morning and going out to scavenge for food because it is not available anywhere commercially. I think if you paused and if you listened carefully, it will be very hard for you to imagine these things. It will be very hard for you to imagine these things because everything we eat and consume, it is all thanks to agriculture. Now, Honourable Chair, I am certain that our forebearers, when they took a conscious decision to write a document called agriculture, a document called the Freedom Charter, they were imagining these things. And that is why they included a clause in the Freedom Charter that talks about these things in particular, and included an important sentence that says, food plentiful and no one shall go hungry. Now, even those men and women who wrote an important document for this country, Vision 2030, the National Development Plan. And that is why they dedicated a whole chapter, which is chapter 6, just to deal with issues of agriculture, rural development, and so on. They were imagining these things that we said we must imagine them. Now, the President of the Republic, when on various occasions and in different platforms, talk about agriculture and the importance of agriculture, he was imagining the questions that we posed earlier on. Now, Honourable Chair, you will agree with me and everybody that the budget of 6.8 billion that has been allocated to the Department of Agriculture is too little or minimal. Because this department has got entities which it must transfer money to. This department has got 9 provinces which it must transfer conditional grants to. This department has got employees which must be paid. This department, if nature struck, whether through drought or any other thing, it is a department that must respond to those challenges. Now just think on your own whether 6.8 billion will assist this department to achieve its intended objectives. I don't think so. Now, one honourable member indicated earlier on here that he doubts as to whether he will support the department if they go to Treasury and request additional funds. And he goes on to say, it is because this department doesn't have a plan. It doesn't have a plan. They don't know what are they doing and so on. Now, you know there is a serious problem in this country of members who have got fault memories. and that member will say is forgetry. Now, forgetry. Yeah, that's false memory. Now, if a member of a portfolio committee that sits every Tuesday and interact with this department on the 2030 vision, which is the National Development Plan, that is our plan till 2030. We have a plan. If this honorable member sits with a department that presents its MTSF on every Tuesday or whenever we meet, if this honorable member sits in a meeting with a department that presents an annual performance plan which indicate as to what is it that we are going to do for this entire year and what is that we are going to do in each and every quarter, then comes here and say there is no plan, I doubt as to whether this member does think properly. Because those are the plans that exist. And it is unfortunate that some amongst us do not necessarily sit in this portfolio committee. And we sympathize with you. And I want to talk about Honorable Mulder in particular, who says everything we do is about propaganda. And before I go into the propaganda, let me remind you what the minister said earlier on when he quoted O.R. Tambo. And I just want to repeat just one sentence on that one. He said, O.R. Tambo says, we have a vision of a South Africa in which black and white shall live and work together as equals in conditions of peace and prosperity. Now, I'm not sure as to why are other members of parliament on a continuous basis, when we talk about agriculture, which the minister said is one area where all of us, we need to be united, they want to put race on this matter. You can't put race here on our Melda. Because once you put race, it means you did not understand what Oliver Tambo was talking about. That me and you, irrespective of our pigmentation, irrespective of the color of our skins, we must work together in prosperity, and we must be equal. That's what he said. Now, you can't go around and begin to say that this department and this government is discriminating. We have never discriminated anybody. And that is why I will appeal to you, Honorable Mulder, that you must join this portfolio committee. Because once you join this portfolio committee, I can tell you now, you are going to gain a lot. You are going to gain a lot. Because you have little knowledge of what is happening in this department. Very little.
Chairperson, is the member prepared to take a question?
Honorable member, are you prepared to take a question?
No, I will take a question after I've finished my speech.
Maybe you can start thinking
And I must also indicate, Honorable Chair, going to Honorable Carter, I'm happy that you reminded me about you. Now, Honorable Carter must understand that we have two departments in this country. The first department is the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. The other one is Rural Development, Land Reform, and Land Reform. Now, what you do, you come on stage and talk about issues of land reform. It means, what it means, you have an introductory knowledge of what the Department of Agriculture does.
Please conclude.
And once you have an introductory knowledge of what the Department of Agriculture does, it means we need to invite you as well in order to sit in this department and understand what is it that we are doing.
Thank you.
The last point, Chair. Members who sit in the economic transformation cluster, including people from the opposition, who must attend other debates. You know, the Minister of DTI spoke a lot about plans that they have to deal with the challenges that we face in the poultry industry. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, I do request members not to shout time. because we all have washes for time. There's a staff that is responsible for that. And no, Honorable Stein, you are disturbing the member when I was speaking. That's the idea. But that idea should not be overdone because make it difficult for people to be heard. Honorable Minister, please conclude. It's 5 minutes. Already 2 minutes is gone.
Thanks, Chairperson. Let me start by thanking the Director General of the department and his team for working very hard to achieve our goals. I will be able to say to some people, there's a saying in English that those who stay in glass houses should not throw stones. The less said about the issues that some have raised, the better. And I will not deal with most of what has been said because Honorable Paul has chosen to run away. I would respond to him. Honorable Nkosi Cebekulu, I hope that the issue of legal fishing is on our radar. By the way, we have been invited by the Indian coastal countries to assist with our technology to make sure that we can monitor our surrounding waters and the rest. So we are clear on that, but I take your point, and I think we can engage further. Babu Filtan Mkayawam, ubungola nami izolo linyanga nduthetha apha mhlanje. And I have said just now that as a department we'll make sure that there is a charter of transformation of the fishing industry. And to come and say there's no scientific approach in dealing with agriculture, when we have shown very well that we have produced a drought-resistant seed. That is scientific research. You won't just wake up in the morning and you see this seed somewhere else. It is research, Baba. But we can talk further another time. But I want to deal with more and I want to respond to the Honorable Mulder. Young kenners don't leave rural people to towns because they want phones. I can assure you I've been to many colleges and I've seen young black people, young kids who are saying they don't want to queue for jobs in our department. They want to be farmers. And I can assure you I've spoken to many white farmers who are really appreciative of the fact that they can play a role. But I want to spend time on that more. The Honorable Van Dalen, don't constrain black people into peripheral fishing. Don't speak of 800 people whose quotas you claim have been taken away. What about deep sea fishing? What about the commercial fishing? Why don't you join me when I go to court against a company that killed 12 people at sea and you never heard your voice? Why are you so selective, sir, such that you are concerned about black people who are scavenging on the peripheral of fishing? I want you and me to transform the industry. Only 5 companies in this country are exploiting our fish. Only 5. And in 1998, what they did, they claimed, they made a point that no black person will have access to the sea. Even the people who refer to are really quota papers. When I do something about it, sir, what happens? The very companies take me to court and you're not present to be with me and we march and say, let's change the industry. You are silent because you share the ideas that black people should be employed. They cannot be participating as equals. We must transform. And I call on the DA and I call on all the parties, and I'm saying that if we are to succeed in this country, let's make sure that we work together. In this country, you cannot partner with a foreign vessel, as they do in Namibia. Because why? These companies, there are 5, 2 of which are subsidiaries. They're exploiting our fish species. The reason they took us to court was because when there was no cake available, the company to take us to court was making more money. And I'm saying to you, let's hold hands and work together, Ms. Pantale. I have spoken to the rep of those people. I understand their complaints, and I agree with them. But to transform, you need fish. Fish can be planted or fall from trees. You share what you have with others. And I'm saying to you, other than coming here and claim that we don't have, we're just making a political statement, we're not. We understand the fate of those, but I can assure you, some companies have registered their own employees as shareholders, when in essence they were not. Let's transform the industry, because only the fishing industry have refused to transform. I can assure you today, there's no black person who can claim to own a vessel. The question is why?
Thank you very much.
Why? So stand on that. Don't speak about 800. Our people don't want to scavenge. No. I've spoken to I want to say to those people whose rights have been threatened, as a department, we have met with the relatives of those fishermen, and we will make sure that we go to those areas and make sure that we find a formula. Don't follow the DA for their dreaming of being a part of tomorrow when they still embrace what they are coming from. So they've got one foot on sea and one foot on land, because their dream is to retain what they enjoyed before. So thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members, and you are reminded that the debate on labor is here at 16:15. Public Service and Administration debate will take place 16:15 in the Old Assembly Chamber, and the vote on women budget will take place at 16:15 in Committee Room E249. That concludes the debate, honorable member. Thank you very much for your participation.